Hello and welcome. This is Beverly Fells Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness, and I'm in the kitchen. It's about time. I haven't been here in a while. Well, as I always say, I still have some videos in the can that I need to edit, but it's that time of year again, and it's that time of year I feel like baking, and this is the week before Thanksgiving. And when my kids were small, I didn't do much baking because we went to my mother-in-law's house on the other side of Pennsylvania near Philadelphia for Thanksgiving. And Christmas, we were at my parents' house for Thanksgiving. I cooked anyway, but there's this one recipe that always gets me in trouble. And when I make it, I wind up eating most of it. It's like I don't want to share. So I'm going to share this particular recipe. It is not a fancy cookie. It's not one of those Christmas cookies like I see in the Christmas movies where everybody sits around and they make the stars and the hearts and the snowflakes and the what is it, the snowmen or the Santa Clauses, and they decorate, put sprinkles all over everything. I'm sorry guys, but I'm just not into that. I'm just not into that. But these are the best cookies in the world. So I make these and try to box them up and give away a bunch of them, or I make a half of a recipe. But since I'm going to my son's house for Thanksgiving, I'm going to make the whole recipe and box up half of it and take them and leave them out of the house. So that's the one recipe. And then the second, I'm going to do a second recipe because these are really quick and short. And this is one you've probably seen before. And they're shaped in like a half moon, like a crescent. Right? Not a half moon, but a crescent moon. And they're called Almond Crescents. And this recipe is so easy, but I'm making a change to it. When I went on vacation up in Oklahoma, I found a pecan factory, pecan place where they sell pecans. And I got pecan meal. And this has been put in a vacuum sealed bag and put in the freezer. And I kept saying, what am I going to use this for? What am I going to, I'm not going to make bread with it. I'm not going to, all those kind of wonderful things. And I said, instead of almonds, we are going to use pecans or pecans or pecans. I don't know. You choose how you're going to do it. And I'm not going to shape them in a crescent. That means extra work for you, or for me. And I don't want extra. I want to make this easy and quick. And so we're going to make those two cookies. Now, I've been making this recipe forever, and I know sometimes people say, Beverly, will you please shut up and get to work? But just to let you know, I have been making this so long that the book is faded. It's got spills all over it. That's how you know that a person really uses the recipe. And this is from, see, I still have the jacket, The Joy of Cooking Cookbook. That's what it's from. And this is the 1975 edition. And this is called, the first one is called Sugar Drop Cookies with Oil. And it's on page 705. And then the other one is Almond Crescents on 713. Now that's the 75 edition. Now there has been new editions. I've gotten the pocketbook kind. I put that in my travel trailer, so I have it with me. But this has been my go-to book for a lot of recipes. So let's get started, and let's get started with the sugar drop cookies with oil. Okay, so let's get started. So what it calls for is 2 and 1/2 cups of all sifted flour. So, and I don't tap the flour to make it go down into the sifter or into the measuring cup. I want just the light weight of the flour itself. So, where am I? All right. So 1. So this is 2. And I'll just scrape off the top here. Okay. We'll move this up a little bit closer so you can see more. All right. So that's 2. And then let me find my 1/2 cup. It's a 1/3 cup. That's a 1/2. All right. So now a 1/2 cup. So this is the sugar drop cookies with oil. 2.5 cups. And I'm sifting. Okay. Then lid back on the flour here. Put it out of the way. Then I want 1.5 teaspoons of double acting baking powder. 1.5 teaspoons. I love my metal measuring spoons. I've tried the plastic ones. Okay, that's 1. And I need a 1/2. And the plastic ones, after a while, they just don't work. All right, here's a 1/2. All right, so that's 1.5 of baking powder, what is called double acting baking powder. And so then I need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And the only salt I have at home is Himalayan sea salt. I do not have regular white salt. I may have some regular white salt without iodine in my silk painting studio, but I didn't feel like going to hunt that down. The Himalayan salt is fine. It doesn't cause a problem. Then it wants a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And, you know, I love cinnamon, and sometimes it's like, well, can I have more? Can I have a stronger taste when I make zucchini bread? The recipe I have calls for 3 tablespoons, and I usually wind up with 3.5. Okay, so that's 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and it says or a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. So I have my nutmeg, little grater. Bought this a long time ago, but I always will add some nutmeg. I'm not going to really measure, but I do both of them because I love the flavor and the smell of nutmeg. And fresh ground, you can't beat it. Now, I don't know where to tell you to buy it unless you're at a gourmet shop. I know here in Dallas there's a spice shop off of 635 that has some really great stuff. Okay, so I'm sifting these together. Now, if you are a person who doesn't have a sifter, don't worry about it, because these days the flour is really pretty well sifted already. It used to be it would have some kind of lumps in it and you wanted to do that, but the sifting actually adds some air to the flour. So I didn't mix it all the way. Sometimes when I was in high school, we would take and sift it a second time. You know, old school home ec, sift it a second time. All right, so now I'm making a well right there. Now it tells me combine 1 cup of sugar and 3/4 cups of vegetable oil, and add this to the mixture and beat well after each addition of, well, I'm already measured out the 3/4 cup of vegetable oil, so all of that's going in there. Just let it all drain in. Okay. So that's the vegetable oil. And I need 1 cup of sugar. And I use what is referred to as cane sugar, right? So I'm going to use the 1/2 cup measuring cup. So I need 1 cup of sugar. Put 1. Sometimes when I make this, I mix the sugar in with the flour. Makes it easier, right? Alright, so that's my sugar. Let's move that off to the side. And now I need 2 eggs. And one of the things I do with my eggs, because I learned my lesson a long time ago, and that is, move that over out of the way here, right there, is that I don't break my eggs into the batter because I think I heard you. They could go be a bad egg. I've had a rotten egg, and it was like, where'd you come from? And it turned out there had been a slight hole in the egg, and it had gone rotten. Okay, so that's 2 eggs in there, and a teaspoon of vanilla. And this is vanilla I got in Mexico. I buy my at the liquor store. You buy the vanilla there because it is really strong versus the little tiny bottle of vanilla you get here, and it's not the imitation. I use real vanilla. Now, some Mexican vanilla hasn't been so good, but this one is a good one. And it smells so good. It's really a strong vanilla. Alright, so we've got 2½ cups of sifted flour, 1/2 teaspoons of double-acting baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and I added approximately a quarter teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, a cup of sugar, 3/4 cup of oil, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And now I'm going to mix all of this up. Started to use my mixer, and I said, no, you make cookies by hand. But sometimes, once this thing gets going, you may say, well, maybe you should have used the mixer. But the thing about this that makes it a little bit different and a little easier to deal with is the oil. You know, a lot of cookies call for butter. And this is the oil. And I mix it up until all the flour has been absorbed into the mixture. Now there's a couple things that we can do with this though, and that is you can mix this up, wrap it up in saran wrap, and let it sit overnight, and all the oil and all the sugar and flour and cinnamon and nutmeg and everything gets mixed up really well together. Okay, that's the cookie. And yeah, it looks really soft. It's not hard. like some cookies can be. But that's what this cookie is, okay? That's the cookie. Now let me move these things out of the way. So I have these around for the next recipe. Okay. Well, I need to turn the oven on, 375 degrees. And you can do what folks normally do, and you can use the ice cream scoop thingies, or you can use spoons, but that's going to be up to you, what you're going to use, okay? It's going to be up to you. So, here's what I'm going to do. This will make a bigger one. This is a smaller one. However, so, I'm not going to use a bigger one. Other thing I forgot, one more thing. Wonderful thing about being in an easy to access kitchen. No, I am not greasing this pan, right? And I need one more about that one little thing. So, sugar. So that's about half cup of sugar. I'm going to take this. Alright, hands cleaned, hands are clean, they're rolled in a ball, and then I'm going to roll it into sugar. Now, this is going to, let's see where we are, this is going to make a pretty big cookie, but I'm not done with that cookie, not yet, okay? Roll it in the sugar. That's 2. And 3. Oops. That kind of fell apart. Alright, so here are 3 cookies. Take my fork, put it in the sugar. Okay, put it in the sugar. And now I'm going to mash these cookies down. So, and then I'm going to go this way. So it's going to be like a crosshatch. Let's see if I can pull this up for you. I got a light here today, so hopefully it gives you a little bit more sunshine. The light from my kitchen lights are in the way too. So sorry about the shadow. I'm working hard not to do that. But that's like a crosshatch. Now, yep, don't need to put sugar, or grease on the cookie sheet because the cookies have a lot of oil in them. Okay, so that's that. Now let's look at the little one. Yeah, the little tiny one. So the little tiny one, okay, this is oily, let me tell you. And you put do that, and I put it right there. And these can be about the size of those English cookies, right, that you find. All right, I'm going to go away. It's probably going to be 2 cookie sheets worth of cookies. I'm going to get these done. We're going to put them in the oven at 375 degrees for approximately 10 to 12 minutes, and then pull them out. I'll be back. Okay, so got them all on the cookie sheet. The one little tiny one is up there at the top, and got them in the oven, and they took approximately 15 minutes, but you'll see them at the end of this video. Hello and welcome back to part 2, where we're going to be making our almond crescents, but actually, let's see if I can do this, pecan crescent cookies. And in the intro I said I wasn't going to do the crescent. Well, went in my can, found my can of all my little items, and I found 2 crescent cutters. So we're going to do that. My original plan was to make them, let me move this up a little bit, make them just round, but this is cool. So what it calls for is 3/4 cup of confectioner's sugar. So I've already put that in there. 1 cup of butter, which equates to 2 sticks of butter. The butter needs to be soft because we're going to gradually cream the sugar with the butter. Now, according to this, if I was going to use the stand mixer, I'd put the butter in the bowl and have it running and slowly add the sugar. But since I am using the hand mixer this time, this is an Oster hand mixer, I am going to just put them all in there and slowly add them. So let's do that first. And I'm not a lefty, I'm a righty. But it's easier to do this. Now, this bowl I picked up at a restaurant supply house. Stainless steel. I love it. If I need something to be cold and have a cold bowl, this is easy to chill. If I need something warm, it's easy to warm up. The only difference is in a regular mixing bowl, the sides are taller. Right, so I've got the butter and the sugar just looking gorgeous. And using confectioner's sugar, this is actually, it works a lot faster. Regular sugar, because it's grainy, you don't want it on real fast, and you don't, and you want it to come out nice and creamy. This is like one of those basic steps for making cakes from scratch, making cookies that use butter and sugar from scratch. You want to cream your butter and your sugar together. Okay? Alright, next step, I need 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And I already told you about this vanilla that I got in Mexico. It is like awesome. So I need 2 teaspoons of that. 2 teaspoons of vanilla and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So before I do the vanilla, since I'm using the same spoon, I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. You get the impression that I really like cinnamon? I do. I love cinnamon. Alright, 2 teaspoons of vanilla now. There's 1. And there's 2. You know, sometimes when I'm looking at recipes, I believe they are subjective based on the person who created the recipe, and it's based on their taste. Alright, so I'm getting the vanilla and the cinnamon and 1 cup of ground blanched almonds. Let me mix the vanilla and cinnamon together. Hey. Doesn't that look good already? Yeah, mixing a liquid in with fat sometimes can be a little weird or difficult. Alright, so the cinnamon and the vanilla are mixed in really good now. Right here, oops, do this the right way. I have the 1 cup of the ground pecan meal that I picked up at the Miller Pecan Company up in what is that? Afton, Oklahoma. So I give a shout out to them. No, they're not paying me to say anything. They're just a great place in Afton, Oklahoma. Alright, now I'm going to mix those in. Get some of this net and stuff off. That's the only thing about, you know, when you're using a spatula and you're on TV or video, you can't use your fingers. Alright, what's next? What's next is, now that I've added the vanilla, cinnamon, almonds, I'm going to knead in by hand until completely mixed 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And it said sifted. So I've got some sifting here. And I'm going to sift it while I put it on. So it says by hand. I'll start with a spoon. The key is that this is a kind of a stiff cookie dough. Yeah. And when you do it by hand, the warmth of your hand is going to melt the butter, right? Because the butter was creamy in there. Okay. So just a little bit at a time. And I'm thinking they are right, because this is the butter and sugar are sticking to the spoon. Okay, a little bit more. What else do you do this with? Ah, when you're making bread sometimes, you add a little bit of flour at a time until you get it to a really good consistency. Alright, I'll be back once I've incorporated all of this, but basically this is all I'm going to do, and just keep mixing. Now, I'm going to tell you, the other thing, it says by hand, but the other thing you could use, which I don't have one powerful enough, you could possibly use a food processor to mix it. I could put all this in the stand mixer and mix it up. But it just dawned on me, this Oster mixer has dough hooks. Never used them before. So, guys, oops, I guess they're in the wrong one. Okay, that one goes there. And that one goes there. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this is what the dough hook using my hand mixer dough hook things. It's not quite totally mixed, so I'm going to take it and do what it says and mix it the final way. So the dough hooks on that hand mixer will get all this stuff kind of mixed together, but it's not as good as dough hooks on my stand mixer. And this is really dry. Alright, so what it tells me, once I get this so it's in a ball, it says chill the dough and then roll it to a thickness of 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go away. I'm going to get this all chilled. Okay, let's go in the refrigerator. We'll see you when it's been cooled down. Okay, well, let's get you a little closer. I put it, I'm doing a talk tomorrow, and I had to get it written. And so I took and put this in the freezer, intending only to chill for 30 minutes, and wound up getting so engrossed in my talk that I let it stay in the freezer for an hour. So let's see what happens here. Okay, so this is powdered sugar. I'll put a little bit down, because one of the things with this is it gets dusted with the powdered sugar. Now what I have here is a marble piece of slab, marble slab. It stays cold. I bought this years and years and years ago because I used to bake pies all the time, and one of the places that you wanted was that you wanted the pie crust to stay cold. Alright, so this did get a little bit hard. So this is a brittle dough. That's the one thing I knew about it. It was a brittle dough. But you want to get it, it says, you know, chill the dough and roll it to a thickness of 1/4 of an inch. Alright, so, and one of the things that each one of these, they're going to be dusted with powdered sugar. So this is a really super dry this time. I don't know why. Could it be the way I have the nuts? I think I'm just, so going back. So this is a marble rolling pin, also stays cold. I used to keep it in the refrigerator because I wanted that marble pen to be extremely, you know, cold, so the butter wouldn't melt in the when I was making things. Alright, this is so chilly that it is hard putting it together. So I'm just pushing it down. So what would I do to make this less dry? I think I would use less flour, more nuts, less flour. But I would use 2 cups of flour instead of 2.5. But it's the first time I've made these in forever. Okay. So here we have it, a crescent. I have a baking sheet. I have parchment paper, and I've greased the parchment paper. I see where I missed a couple spots, so I'll take care of those, and that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so taking that and I'm putting it on the cookie sheet that's right next to me. Now yes, there's sugar on the bottom. I didn't want to use flour because it's going to be dusted with sugar in the end. Okay. Alright, I'm going to go away. I'm going to get these cut out and on a cookie sheet, and I will be back. Alright. Okay, I'm down to the last little bit, and I figured out how to use my rolling pin here without it sticking all over it. The other piece is after I mashed it down with my hand a little bit, it got a little softer. And so using the rolling pin gives me an even amount. But it still sticks to the rolling pin a little bit. But I patch it up. Okay. And then I just go through here and make my little crescents. So the first batch is in the oven at 350 degrees. It's supposed to cook for approximately 15 minutes. Well, since they're already brown, it'll be a little harder to figure out golden brown, right? But we should be able to see that. And once we get them out of the oven, we let them cool down, and then we're going to dust them in powdered sugar. So I made it a little easier to lift them using a knife and putting it on another cookie sheet that this time I lined with parchment paper, but I didn't grease the paper. I wanted to see what would happen without, sometimes I just want to find if I don't have to do certain steps, then that's the way it's going to be. Okay, I have just kind of been working, thinking the camera was on, and it wasn't. So anyway, these are the cookies, the ones that I turned over. And as you can see, the color doesn't change much. And so you have to do kind of like I did. And I took and tasted it and said, but 15 minutes is proper. So what I'm doing now is I am coating them with powdered sugar. And in my little container here now, I've got my sugar cookies, sugar drop cookies with oil, got a little bit of powder on it, and then my pecan almond, or my pecan crescents, no almonds. So I've just said, okay, I'll put a couple more in here. And this little container is going to go over to my son's house. In fact, if you notice, these cookies are pretty big. Now, according to the recipe, you should get 3 dozen. I don't. What's this? This is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I get around about half that much. I get about 18 to 20 because of the size I make them. I just like them large. And as you saw on the picture, or the thumbnail, I like my cookies large. And the reason is I pull out one cookie, and that one cookie is going to satisfy me most of the time. And I did this. So, but this is how they get finished. So this is Pecan Crescent cookie, which is really easy to make. As you saw, there's nothing to it. The only difference is if you got dough hooks or you've got a mixer with dough hooks, I'd say use that. Otherwise, you've got to use your fingers and hands to get it mixed. The other piece is don't let it cool in the refrigerator too long. It calls for, chilling the dough. And I threw it in the freezer, as I told you, and then I got distracted. So I had to let it sit out and unthaw. So it didn't do damage. The idea of chilling is actually to get the butter cold again so that it melts when this is cooking. This is Beverly Fells Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness. If you like this video, please give it a floured or a sugared thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell. If you have been here before, thank you for watching again. I appreciate it very much. It makes me feel good that people will actually watch. And you may, I don't know if this particular recipe is on YouTube or not. But, you know, I know almond crescents are there, but not pecan crescents. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video.